is very seldom that ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach the height of romantic felicity. But that would be asking too much of fate. Still, I will proudly declare that there is something queer about it. John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. John is practical in the extreme. He has no patience with faith, an intense horror of superstition, and he scoffs openly at any talk of things not to be felt and put down in figures. John is a physician, and perhaps that is one reason I do not get well faster. You see, he does not believe I am sick. If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there's really nothing the matter with one but a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? I disagree with their ideas. Personally, I believe that congenial work with excitement and change would do me good. The most beautiful country out these windows, such gardens and mysterious woodland paths. But the room itself troubles me deeply. It was a nursery first, then a playroom, and the windows are barred for the children. The paint and paper look as though a boys' school had used it. The wallpaper is stripped off in great patches all around the head of my bed, as far as I can reach, and in a great place on the other side. The color is repellent, almost revolting. A smoldering, unclean yellow, strangely faded by the slow-turning sunlight. It is a dull yet lurid orange in some places, a sickly sulfur tint in others. No wonder the children hated it. I never saw a worse paper in my life. One of those sprawling, flamboyant patterns committing every artistic sin. It is dull enough to confuse the eye, pronounced enough to constantly irritate. And when you follow the lame, uncertain curves, they suddenly commit suicide, plunge off at outrageous angles, and destroy themselves in unheard of contradictions. The color is hideous enough, the smell revolting enough. I have watched John's sister Jenny tend the house faithfully and keep everything in order. She is a perfect housekeeper and hopes for no better profession. But I must not let her find me writing. There is one thing about the paper, the pattern. It begins to dawn on me that the principal design is a strange, provoking, formless sort of figure that seems to skulk about behind that silly, conspicuous front design. I lie awake for a good while, watching it change in the dim light. By daylight it is subdued, quiet. I fancy it is the pattern that keeps her so still. But by moonlight, when a lamp is lit, I begin to see a figure behind it. Something that shifts and shakes, that creeps. A woman stooping down and creeping about behind that pattern. I don't like it a bit. I wonder whether it is my nerves or the wallpaper or the damp smell or the strange crooked reflections in the glass. Sometimes I think there are a great many women behind, and sometimes only one. I am getting angry enough to do something desperate. By day, the woman is quiet, but by night, she shakes the bars relentlessly, trying to climb through. But nobody could climb through that pattern. It strangles so. I think that is why it has so many heads. They get through, and then the pattern strangles them off and turns them upside down and makes their eyes white. If those heads were covered or taken off, it would not be half so bad. I watched her long enough. By daylight, I can see her quite clearly, always creeping, and her crawling shakes the pattern as if she wants to get out. I am determined to follow that pattern to some conclusion. I know a little of the principle of design, and I know this thing was not arranged on any laws of radiation or alteration or repetition or symmetry or anything else that I ever heard of. It is repeated, of course, by the breadths, but not otherwise. Looked at in one way, each breadth stands alone. The bloated curves and flourishes go waddling up and down in isolated columns of fatuity. I pulled off most of the paper I could reach standing on the floor. It sticks horribly, and the pattern just enjoys it. All those strangled heads and bulbous eyes and waddling fungus growths shriek with derision. I am getting fond of the room in spite of the wallpaper. Perhaps because of the wallpaper. It dwells in my mind so. I have locked the door and thrown the key down the front path. I don't want to go out, and I don't want to have anybody come in until John breaks it down. I've got a rope up here that even Jenny did not find. I suppose I shall have to get back behind the pattern when it comes night, and that is hard. It is so pleasant to be out in this great room and creep around as I please. I don't want to go outside, for outside you have to creep on the ground, and everything is green instead of yellow. But here I can creep smoothly on the floor, and my shoulder fits into that long smooch around the wall, so I cannot lose my way. I kept on creeping just the same, but I looked at him over my shoulder. I have got out at last, in spite of you and Jane, and I have pulled off most of the paper, so you cannot put me back. Now why should that man have fainted? But he did, and right across my path by the wall, so that I had to creep over him every time. There is the smell still, but it does not matter now. The front pattern does move, and no wonder. The woman behind shakes it. Sometimes I think there are a great many women behind, and sometimes only one. And she crawls around fast, and her crawling shakes it all over. Then in the very bright spots she keeps still, and in the very shady spots she just takes hold of the bars and shakes them hard. I tried to lift and push him away, but he was too heavy. It is no use, young man. You cannot put me back, for I have torn off most of the paper, and once you get started, these conventions have no hold on you. It is over at last. John came home earlier in the day than usual and found the door locked and began calling and pounding. He called and pounded a good while, and then he said he would break it down if I did not open it. That made me laugh. I said very quietly through the keyhole, "John dear, the key is down by the front steps under a plantain leaf." That silenced him for a moment. Then he said, very quietly, indeed, "Open the door, my darling." I said again, very gently, "The key is down by the front door, under a plantain leaf." He got it, of course, and came in. When John saw me, he turned very pale. Now I had the rope, and he was not to untie me. I kept on creeping, and he did not speak again for a long while. I had to creep over him every time, for he was lying quite still, there on the floor, right in my path.